The great hall of the Celestine Nexus stretched for nearly a mile in every direction. Its walls were made of living crystal that glowed with soft blue light. Thousands of seats rose in circles around the central platform, and in those seats sat the representatives of 12 alien species. This was the heart of the Galactic Concord, where the fate of entire worlds was decided with a single vote. Park Jin-ho stood at the human section, his hands clasped behind his back. He was a tall man with gray hair and tired eyes. For 15 years, he had served as Earth's ambassador to the Concord. He had smiled when he wanted to scream. He had bowed when he wanted to fight. He had done everything his government asked because he believed in peace. Beside him stood Admiral Yoon Hana. She wore her military uniform with pride, the medals on her chest catching the crystal light. Unlike Jin-ho, she did not hide her feelings well. Her jaw was tight, and her dark eyes moved constantly. Watching the alien delegates, as a soldier watches enemies on a battlefield. "They are whispering again," she said quietly. "The Velar and the Orin. They have been talking since we arrived." Jin-ho nodded slowly. "I noticed. The Velar were insect-like creatures, their bodies covered in hard shells the color of rust. They had ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years before any other species reached the stars. The Orin were different. They were tall beings made of living crystal, beautiful and cold, their faces impossible to read. "Something is wrong," Hana continued. "I can feel it." Before Jin-ho could respond, a loud tone echoed through the hall. The Supreme Arbiter had arrived. Tikus was the oldest Velar in the Concord. His shell was cracked in many places, the marks of centuries of life. He walked slowly to the central platform, his many legs clicking against the floor. When he spoke, his voice was translated into 100 languages at once. "We gather today to discuss the matter of resource redistribution in the outer territories," Tikus announced. "The Helix sector requires attention." Jin-ho felt his stomach drop. The Helix sector was human space. 30 years ago, when Earth joined the Concord, they had been given permission to colonize the outer reaches. The sector was dangerous then, filled with unstable stars and hostile creatures. Humanity had tamed it with blood and sacrifice. Millions of human lives had been lost building those colonies. Now those colonies held nearly 2 billion people. They were home. The Orin delegate rose to speak. Her name was something humans could not pronounce, so they called her the Crystal Lady. "The Helix sector has grown beyond the capacity of a young species to manage," she said, her voice like breaking glass. "We propose a transfer of administrative control to more experienced members of the Concord." "Transfer?" Jin-ho stepped forward, his heart pounding. "You mean you want to take our colonies?" Tikus raised a leg for silence. "Not take, Ambassador. Redistribute. The resources of the Helix sector are too important to be left in inexperienced hands. We have managed those colonies for 30 years," Jin-ho said, fighting to keep his voice calm. "We built them from nothing. Our people died for them, and we are grateful for your sacrifice." Tikus replied. His tone suggested he was not grateful at all. "But the time has come for the young to step aside and let the elders guide them." Admiral Hana moved closer to Jin-ho. "This is theft," she whispered. "They cannot do this." But looking around the hall, Jin-ho saw the truth. The other delegates were not surprised. Some were nodding. Others were simply waiting. They had known about this proposal before today. Perhaps they had helped plan it. "May I ask a question?" Jin-ho said, his voice echoing in the suddenly quiet hall. Tikus spread his front legs in a gesture of permission. "When humanity joined the Concord, we were promised equality. We were told that all species, young or old, would be treated the same. We were told that our colonies would be protected, not stolen. The Concord Charter allows for redistribution when it serves the greater good," Tikus replied. "And who decides what serves the greater good?" Tikus smiled, or at least made the expression that Velar used when they were pleased. "We do, Ambassador. The elder races. That has always been the way." Jin-ho stared at the ancient insect for a long moment. In that silence, he understood something terrible, something he should have realized years ago. "We were never equals, were we?" he asked quietly. "When we joined the Concord, when we signed those treaties, we thought we were becoming partners. But that was never true. Tickus did not answer. He did not need to. The silence of the hall was answer enough. You wanted us to colonize the dangerous regions, Jinho continued, his voice growing stronger. You wanted us to fight the creatures that lived there, to lose our ships and our people taming the wild spaces, and then, when the work was done, you planned to take everything we built. The strong guide the weak. The Crystal Lady said, This is the natural order of things. Your species is young. You should be grateful for our guidance. Admiral Hana stepped forward, her hand moving toward the weapon at her hip. Jinho stopped her with a gentle touch. Not here, he said softly. Not yet. He looked around the hall one more time, memorizing every face, every delegate who sat in silence while his people were being betrayed. Then he straightened his back and spoke the words that would change everything. The human delegation requests a recess to consult with our government. Tickus waved a leg dismissively. Granted. You have one-day cycle. But understand, Ambassador, the vote will happen whether you participate or not. The Concord has made its decision. Jinho nodded slowly. Yes, he said. I believe you have. He turned and walked toward the exit, Admiral Hana at his side. The alien delegates watched them go with expressions of boredom, amusement, or indifference. None of them were worried. Why would they be? Humanity was young. Humanity was weak. Humanity would complain for a while, then accept their fate. As all young species did, they had no idea what they had just done. As the great doors closed behind them, Hana finally spoke. What do we do now? Jinho was quiet for a moment. When he answered, his voice was cold in a way she had never heard before. Now we find out the truth. All of it. And then we show them what humanity really is. The human quarters on Celestine Nexus were small compared to those of the elder races. A simple set of rooms with gray walls and basic furniture. The Concord had never seen fit to give humanity anything better. Now, Jinho understood why. He sat at the head of a metal table, surrounded by his most trusted people. Admiral Hana stood by the door, her arms crossed. Captain Kang Sunwoo, head of their security detail, checked the room for listening devices for the third time. And across from Jinho sat Intelligence Officer Baek Minji, her face pale as she opened her computer. I have been investigating the Concord for 2 years, Minji began. Her voice was steady, but her hands shook slightly. At first, I thought I was being paranoid. The things I found seemed too terrible to be true, but after what happened today, I know I was right. Show us, Jinho said. Minji pressed a button, and a hologram appeared above the table. It showed the original treaty that humanity had signed when joining the Concord 40 years ago. This is the treaty everyone knows, she said. The one that promises equality, protection, and shared resources. But there is another version. She pressed another button. A second document appeared, filled with strange symbols that no human could read. This is written in the Elder Script, a language the Concord claims is only used for ceremonial purposes. But I found a way to translate it. Minji took a deep breath. This is the real treaty, Ambassador. The one that actually governs our relationship with the Concord. What does it say? Hana asked, her voice tight. It classifies humanity as a provisional client species. We have no voting rights. We have no claim to any territory we develop. We are required to fight in Concord wars. But we have no say in how those wars are conducted, and worst of all. Minji paused, her eyes filling with tears. We can be harvested. The room went silent. Sunwoo stopped his security sweep. Hana's arms dropped to her sides. Harvested? Jinho repeated. Minji nodded. The elder races have the right to take human citizens for study, experimentation, or labor. Without notice, without permission, without limit. That cannot be true, Sunwoo said. We would have noticed. People would have disappeared. People have disappeared. Minji brought up another hologram. This one showed 3 large ships. Colony vessels designed to carry thousands of people to new worlds. The Morning Star, lost 11 years ago. The New Horizon, lost 7 years ago. The Endless Dream, lost 3 years ago. Official reports said they were destroyed by space hazards, accidents, bad luck. She looked up at Jinho with haunted eyes. They were not accidents. I found Concord military communications. Those ships were captured. Their passengers, over 40,000 people, were taken to research facilities operated by the Valor and the Orin. Hana slammed her fist on the table. 40,000 people? Our people? And no one told us? The Concord covered it up, Minji said. They have been doing this for centuries. To every young species that joins them. They call it the cultivation program. They take the young races, use them to colonize dangerous space, copy their technology, and then absorb everything they built. The species that resist are destroyed. The species that submit become slaves. Jinho sat very still. His face showed no emotion. But inside, something was breaking. Everything he had believed about the Concord, about peace, about cooperation between species, was a lie. Is there more? He asked quietly. Minji hesitated. Yes. I found records of human military technology being shared with the elder races without our permission. Our shield designs, our engine systems, our weapons. Everything we created in the last 40 years has been copied and distributed throughout the Concord. They were studying us, Hana said bitterly. Learning from us. And then, they planned to throw us away. Sunwoo shook his head in disbelief. Why? We came to them in peace. We wanted to be friends. Why would they do this? Because they are afraid, Minji answered. Look at our history. We went from our first airplane to walking on our moon in less than 70 years. We developed faster than light travel in 2 centuries. The Velar took 10,000 years to reach space. The Orin took 5,000. We are not just a young species. We are a fast species. And that terrifies them. Jinho finally spoke again. They invited us into their house, made us think we were guests, and planned to murder us in our sleep, because they knew that if they gave us time, we would become stronger than them. What do we do now? Sunwoo asked, before anyone could answer. A communication alert sounded. Jinho pressed the button to accept, and the face of President Cho Eun-ji appeared on screen. She was a woman in her 60s, with silver hair and eyes that had seen too much. I received your report, the president said. Her voice was calm, but there was steel underneath. I have read everything Officer Baek sent. Is it all true? Yes, Madam President, Jinho replied. Every word. Eun-ji was silent for a moment. Behind her, Jinho could see movement. Generals entering the room. Advisors gathering around screens. Earth was preparing for something. I want you to listen carefully, Eun-ji said. For 40 years, we have tried to be good members of the galactic community. We have followed rules. We have kept the peace. We have buried our dead and told ourselves it was worth it. She leaned forward, her eyes burning. That ends today. What are your orders? Jinho asked. Go back to that assembly, look them in the eye, and tell them that humanity is done playing their game. The president's voice dropped to something cold and dangerous. End every treaty, break every agreement. Make them understand that they have made the worst mistake in the history of the galaxy. Jinho nodded slowly. And if they try to stop us? President Eun-ji smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. I have been preparing for this day since I was a young soldier. We all have. The Concord thinks they know what humanity is capable of. They have no idea. The communication ended. The room was silent. Admiral Hana stepped forward, her eyes bright with fierce emotion. I have waited my whole career for this moment. Tell me we are finally going to fight back. Jinho stood up from his chair. He felt different somehow. Lighter. As if a weight he had carried for 15 years had finally been lifted. Tomorrow, we return to the assembly, he said. Tomorrow, we tell them the truth. Tomorrow, we end 40 years of lies and begin something new. What if they attack us? Sunwoo asked. Jinho looked at his team. His friends. His fellow humans. They had been betrayed, used, and lied to. Their people had been stolen and murdered, and yet they stood here, ready to face the entire galaxy. Then they will learn, Jinho said quietly, that humans do not break easily, and we do not forget. The great hall was fuller than before. Word had spread that something unusual was happening with the human delegation. Delegates from all 12 species had gathered to watch. Some came out of curiosity. Others came to enjoy the sight of another young race, learning its place in the galaxy. Arbiter Ticus sat on his raised platform, his ancient shell gleaming under the crystal lights. The crystal lady stood nearby, her transparent body glowing with cold amusement. They expected the humans to beg, perhaps to offer something valuable in exchange for keeping a few colonies. That was how young species usually behaved when faced with the power of the Concord. The doors at the far end of the hall opened. Ambassador Park Jinho walked in first, his back straight and his face calm. Behind him came Admiral Yoon Hana, Captain Kang Sunwoo, Intelligence Officer Baek Minji, and 20 other members of the human delegation. They walked in perfect formation, their footsteps echoing in the sudden silence. Something was different about them. The alien delegates noticed it immediately. Yesterday, the humans had looked small and uncertain. Today, they walked like soldiers marching into battle. Jinho approached the central platform. He did not bow. He did not smile. He simply stood there, looking up at Ticus with eyes that held no fear. "The human delegation wishes to address the assembly," he said. Ticus made a gesture of permission. Around the hall, translators hummed as delegates leaned forward to listen. Jinho took a slow breath. He had rehearsed this speech 100 times in his mind. But now, standing here, the words came from somewhere deeper, from his heart, from his soul. 40 years ago, humanity reached the stars, he began. We were young. We were excited. We looked up at the galaxy and saw endless possibilities. When the Galactic Concord offered us membership, we accepted with joy. We thought we had found a family. He paused, letting the silence stretch. We were wrong. A murmur ran through the alien delegates. Ticus raised a leg for silence. For 40 years, we have followed your rules, Jinho continued. We colonized the dangerous spaces you were afraid to touch. We fought the Void Swarm when they threatened your borders. We shared our technology, our resources, our dreams, and what did we receive in return? He reached into his coat and pulled out a data tablet. With a few taps, he projected the hidden treaty for everyone to see. This is the true agreement humanity signed when we joined the Concord, the one written in Elder Script. The one that names us as slaves, not partners, the one that gives you the right to take our people, steal our work, and destroy us whenever you choose. The hall exploded with noise. Some delegates shouted denials. Others demanded to know how humans had obtained such a document. But many, too many, simply sat in silence. They already knew the truth. The Morning Star, Jinho said, his voice cutting through the chaos. The new horizon. The endless dream. 3 colony ships. 40,000 human souls. You told us they were lost to accidents. But we know the truth now. You took them. You studied them. You killed them. He turned to face the Crystal Lady directly. You call us young. You call us inexperienced. But we are not children, and we are not fools. We know what you are now. We know what you have always been. Ticus finally spoke, his voice sharp with anger. These accusations are ridiculous. You have no proof of anything. Minji stepped forward and projected a new set of holograms. Communications between Concord military officers, reports from research facilities, images of human prisoners in cells. We have all the proof we need, she said quietly. The hall fell silent again. There was no more denial possible. The truth hung in the air like smoke from a fire. Jinho reached into his coat one more time. He pulled out a ceremonial tablet, the official symbol of humanity's membership in the Concord. It was made of rare metal and precious stones, worth more than some planetary economies. For 40 years, this tablet represented our hope, he said. Our belief that the galaxy could be better, that different species could live together in peace and equality. He raised the tablet high above his head. Every eye in the hall watched. That hope was a lie. He threw the tablet to the ground. It shattered, with a sound like breaking bones, pieces scattering across the marble floor. The Terran Union hereby withdraws from the Galactic Concord. Jinho announced, his voice ringing through the hall. Every treaty we have signed is now void. Every agreement is ended. Every promise is broken. From this moment forward, humanity speaks only for itself. Admiral Hana stepped to his side. Any Concord military vessel within human space has 72 hours to withdraw. After that deadline, any ship that remains will be treated as an invader and destroyed. The Crystal Lady laughed, a sound like breaking ice. You cannot be serious. Your fleet is small. Your worlds are scattered. You would not survive a week against the combined forces of the Concord. Hana smiled. It was not a friendly smile. You spent 40 years copying our technology. You think you understand what we can do. But you only copied what we allowed you to see. This is foolishness, Tikus declared. You cannot fight the entire galaxy. Be reasonable. Accept the redistribution, and we will forget this little display of emotion. Jinho shook his head slowly. You still do not understand. We are not asking for your permission. We are not negotiating. We are leaving, and if you try to stop us, you will learn something that you should have realized long ago. He leaned forward, his eyes locked on the ancient Velar. Humanity is not afraid of you. We have never been afraid of you. We were polite because we wanted peace. We were patient because we believed in cooperation. But you have shown us that peace was never possible. So now you will see what humans become when we stop being polite. The human delegation turned as one and began walking toward the exit. Their footsteps echoed in the absolute silence of the hall. You are making a terrible mistake, Tikus called after them. The Concord will respond to this insult. Jinho paused at the door. He looked back one last time at the assembly of alien delegates. At the creatures who had betrayed his people, murdered his people, and planned to enslave his people. Yes, he said softly. We are counting on it. The doors closed behind the human delegation with a sound like thunder. For a long moment, no one in the great hall moved or spoke. Then, slowly, the alien delegates began to look at each other with something new in their eyes. Fear. They had expected the humans to beg, to submit, to accept their fate like every other young species before them. Instead, the humans had looked the most powerful alliance in the galaxy in the eye and walked away. And somehow, that was more frightening than any threat. The Concord did not wait long to respond. 3 weeks after the humans walked out of the assembly, a massive fleet gathered at the edge of the Helix sector. 800 warships from the Oran and Mundry navies, along with support vessels from 4 other species. It was the largest military force assembled in over 200 years. Admiral Vectus of the Oran commanded the fleet from his flagship, the Eternal Light. He was considered the finest military mind in the Concord, a strategist who had never lost a battle. His orders were simple: secure the human colonies, capture any resistance leaders, and remind the galaxy what happened to species that defied the elder races. The humans have gathered their fleet at Helix Gate, his tactical officer reported. Approximately 120 vessels. Vectus made a sound of amusement. 120 against 800. They are either very brave or very stupid, perhaps both. The tactical officer agreed. The Concord fleet moved forward, confident in their overwhelming numbers. The Helix Gate was a massive structure that allowed ships to jump across vast distances of space. Controlling it meant controlling access to all human colonies in the sector. Once it fell, the war would be essentially over. On the human side, Fleet Admiral Imteho stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Soul's Pride. He was a quiet man with gray hair and calm eyes. He had spent 30 years in the military, rising from a young pilot to the highest rank in the Terran Navy. His officers had never seen him panic. They had never seen him raise his voice. And they had never seen him lose. Enemy fleet is entering weapons range, his tactical officer reported. They are not slowing down. They expect us to retreat. Tejo nodded slowly. Open a channel to all ships. The communication system crackled to life. Across 120 human vessels, crews stopped what they were doing and listened. This is Admiral Imteho. For 40 years, the Concord has called us young. They have called us weak. They have taken our people, stolen our technology, and planned our destruction. Today, we show them how wrong they were. He paused, looking out at the stars and the approaching enemy fleet. Today, we light the fire of Sol. For Earth. For humanity. For everyone they took from us. The communication ended, and the battle began. The first phase went as the Concorde expected. Their ships advanced in perfect formation, shields at full power, weapons charged. The human fleet held position, seemingly waiting to be destroyed. Then the Prometheus array activated. It was humanity's greatest secret. A weapon system that had been built in hidden facilities across human space. Giant satellites positioned around nearby stars came online, collecting solar energy and focusing it into beams of incredible power. Those beams hit relay stations that redirected them to the battlefield. The first beam struck the center of the conquered formation. 3 ships vanished in an instant, their shields useless against the concentrated fury of a star. Before the enemy could react, 4 more beams hit from different angles. Admiral Vectis stared at his tactical display in disbelief. What is that? Where is that coming from? Unknown energy signatures, his officer stammered. We cannot track the source. It appears to be coming from everywhere at once. Impossible, Vectis said. But even as he spoke, another beam cut through his fleet, destroying 2 more vessels. Then the second surprise arrived. Small objects appeared in the space behind the Concorde formation. At first, Vectis thought they were missiles. Then his sensors identified them as ships, human fighters, but different from anything in the Concorde database. They had appeared without using the gate, without any detectable jump signature. They have gateless travel, the tactical officer whispered. They can jump without structures. That should not be possible. The fighters swarmed through the Concorde fleet like angry insects. They moved with impossible speed and precision, dodging weapons fire that should have destroyed them. Their pilots seemed to know where every shot would come from before it was fired. On Earth, scientists had spent decades developing neural sync technology. It connected a pilot's mind directly to their ship, making human and machine into one being. The result was reaction times that no alien species could match. The fighters danced through the battle like ghosts, untouchable and deadly. Within the first hour, the Concorde fleet lost 200 ships. They had not destroyed a single human vessel. Admiral Vectis ordered a retreat, but it was already too late. Human warships that had been hiding in nearby asteroid fields appeared and cut off the escape routes. The Prometheus array continued firing, picking off the largest enemy vessels one by one. The fighters hunted the smaller ships, disabling their engines and leaving them drifting helplessly in space. The battle lasted 6 hours. When it ended, the Concorde fleet had lost over 600 ships. The survivors were captured or scattered, fleeing back to their homeworlds with stories of weapons that could not be stopped and pilots that could not be hit. Human losses: 12 ships, 47 lives. Admiral Tejo stood on his bridge, watching the enemy flagship drift powerless in space. He felt no joy in the victory, only a cold satisfaction. Open a channel to the enemy commander, he ordered. Vectis appeared on screen. The Oran Admiral's crystal face was cracked, damaged by an explosion on his bridge. His pride was shattered worse than his body. How? Vectis asked. We had 800 ships. We had the finest weapons in the galaxy. How did you do this? Tejo looked at him for a long moment before answering. For 40 years, you stole our technology. You studied our weapons. You thought you understood what we could do. He leaned forward. But we knew you were stealing from us. We knew what you were planning, so we let you see only what we wanted you to see. The real weapons, the real technology, the real power of humanity. We kept hidden, waiting for this day. Vectis made a sound that might have been a laugh or a sob. You planned this from the beginning. We hoped it would never be necessary, Tejo said. We wanted peace. We wanted friendship. But you taught us that hope was worthless, so we prepared for war instead. The communication ended. Across the galaxy, the elder races watched recordings of the battle in horror. The species they had dismissed as children had revealed themselves as something else entirely. Humanity had been preparing for betrayal since the day they joined the Concorde. Every moment of submission had been a lie. On Earth, President Cho Eun-ji addressed the united human worlds. Her face was strong, her voice clear. We did not want this war. We came to the stars seeking friends, not enemies. We extended our hands in peace, and they were slapped away. We trusted, and we were betrayed. We grieved, and no one cared. She paused, letting her words settle into the hearts of billions. But humans do not break. We do not surrender, and we do not forget. The Concord has learned what we can do when pushed. Now they will learn what we will do next. Not conquest, not revenge, something they never expected, something they cannot understand. She smiled, and it was a smile that held both sorrow and steel. We will show them what humanity truly is. 6 months had passed since the Battle of Helix Gate. In that time, the galaxy had changed forever. Human fleets now orbited every major Concord homeworld. The Velar capital, the Oran crystal cities, the Mundri ocean planets. All of them lay under the shadow of human warships. The elder races had tried to fight back, but every battle ended the same way. The weapons they had copied were useless against the technology humanity had kept hidden. Their fleets were destroyed or captured. Their defenses were broken. But something strange had happened. Something the Concord could not understand. The humans had not invaded. Not once. They destroyed military bases. They disabled shipyards and weapons factories. They captured gate stations and communication networks. But they never bombed cities. They never attacked civilian populations. They never took a single prisoner. When Mundri refugee ships fled their homeworld, human vessels escorted them safely to neutral space. When Oran food supplies ran low because their trade routes were blocked, human cargo ships delivered emergency rations. When a plague broke out on a Velar colony, human medical teams arrived within hours. The elder races did not know what to make of it. In their entire history, every war had ended the same way. The winner conquered. The loser submitted or died. There was no third option. There had never been a third option. Until now. The Great Hall of Celestine Nexus was damaged but still standing. Human engineers had repaired the worst of the battle damage, restoring power and atmosphere to the massive structure. Now, for the first time in 6 months, the delegates of the Galactic Concord gathered again. They were a broken group. The Velar ambassador had lost his position when the old government fell. The Crystal Lady had been captured trying to escape to a hidden base. Arbiter Tickus himself sat among the delegates. His ancient shell cracked worse than before. His authority stripped away, the doors opened, and the human delegation entered. Ambassador Park Jin-ho walked at the front, just as he had 6 months ago. But everything else was different. Admiral Yoon Hana walked beside him, her uniform now bearing the marks of a dozen victories. Behind them came Captain Kang Sunwoo, Intelligence Officer Baek Minji, and a new face that many delegates recognized. Lieutenant Song Yoo-jin was young, barely 30 years old. She had dark hair and quiet eyes that held a deep sadness. Her brother had been aboard the Endless Dream, one of the ships the Concord had captured for research. His fate had been confirmed in the data recovered from Concord facilities. He had died in an alien laboratory, alone and afraid, wondering why no one came to rescue him. Jin-ho approached the central platform. The alien delegates watched in silence, waiting to hear what terrible demands their conquerors would make. 6 months ago, I stood in this hall and ended every treaty between humanity and the Concord, Jin-ho began. I told you that you would learn what humans become when we stop being polite. I think you understand now. No one responded. What could they say? Your fleets are destroyed. Your defenses are broken. Your governments have fallen. By every measure of warfare, you have lost completely. Jin-ho paused, letting the weight of those words settle. We could do anything we wanted now. We could take your worlds as you planned to take ours. We could enslave your people as you planned to enslave ours. We could erase your civilizations and build our empire on the ashes. Tickus made a small sound of despair. This was it. This was the end of everything his people had built over 10,000 years. But we are not going to do that. The silence that followed was absolute. Several delegates looked at each other in confusion, certain they had misheard. Jinho reached into his coat and produced a new tablet. It was simple, made of plain metal, without any precious stones or elaborate decoration. This is the Nova Accords. A new treaty. A new beginning. He placed the tablet on the podium. It establishes true equality between all species, young and old. It creates a council where every world has one vote, regardless of how long their civilization has existed. It forbids the exploitation of any species by another. It guarantees the rights of all beings, everywhere, forever. You expect us to sign away our power? The former Velar ambassador asked, his voice bitter. I expect you to accept reality, Jinho replied calmly. Your power is already gone. The only question is what comes next. You can rebuild as equals in a fair galaxy, or you can spend the rest of your existence as conquered people under human rule. The choice is yours. Tychus raised his damaged head to look at the human ambassador. Why? You could take everything. You could rule us as we ruled others. Why would you choose mercy? It was Lieutenant Yujin who answered. She stepped forward, her quiet voice carrying through the silent hall. Because ruling through fear is what you would do, she said. And we are not you. She looked at Tychus with eyes that held pain and loss. But also something else. Something that the ancient Velar could not name. My brother died in your research facility. He was 26 years old. He wanted to be a teacher. He loved poetry and ancient history and stupid jokes that made everyone groan. You took him because you thought humans were tools to be used and discarded. Her voice trembled slightly. But she did not look away. I could hate you for that. Part of me does hate you. But I also know that hate is a cage. If we become conquerors, if we become tyrants, then you win. You prove that your way is the only way, and my brother's death means nothing. She pointed at the Nova Accords. This is how we honor the people we lost. Not with revenge, but with something better. A galaxy where no species is ever treated as less than another. A future where no child ever dies in a laboratory because someone decided their people were expendable. She stepped back to join her fellow humans. The hall remained silent for a long time. Then, slowly, Tychus rose from his seat. His broken legs struggled to support him as he walked to the central podium. He looked at the Nova Accords for a long moment. For 10,000 years. My people have believed that strength means domination, that the only way to survive is to rule or be ruled. He made a sound that might have been a sigh. Perhaps we were wrong. He pressed his leg to the tablet, leaving his mark on the document. Then he turned to face the other delegates. I have signed. Will you join me? One by one, the representatives of the Concord came forward. Some were reluctant, some were angry, some were simply relieved that the war was over. But all of them signed. When the last mark was made, Jinho picked up the tablet and held it high. Today the old galaxy dies, he announced, and something new is born. Not an empire, not a conquest, a partnership, a true family of worlds, built on equality and justice. He looked at his delegation. At Hana, who had fought so hard. At Minji, who had uncovered the truth. At Sunwoo, who had protected them all. At Yujin, who had lost so much but still chose hope. This is what humanity came to the stars for. This is what we always wanted. And now, finally, it begins. The alien delegates watched as the humans turned to leave. But this time, it was different. This time, there was no fear in their eyes, only wonder. Humanity had come to the galaxy as children, seeking friends. They had been betrayed, attacked, and nearly destroyed. They had risen up and proven themselves stronger than anyone imagined. And then, when they held all the power in the universe, they had done the one thing no one expected. They had offered a hand in peace. That was the day the galaxy learned what humanity truly was. Not conquerors, not victims, but something rarer and more precious than either, a species that could destroy everything, and chose not to.